Shalom, 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 Israel. This is Captain Paul Israel from Kingdom Builders of Israel LLC, and today's class topic is going to be on the clean food and unclean food biblical understanding. Again, Israel, get out a pen and a notepad, Israel, for this particular lesson on the clean food and unclean food biblical understanding. So let's get started with this lesson, Israel. So on this next slide, it says, Yahweh commanding clean food to be eaten and unclean food not to be eaten. So this particular PowerPoint slide is going to explain where Yahweh commanded Moses and Moses' brother Aaron to command the children of Israel on what foods to eat and also what foods not to eat. Okay, this is that understanding when we get into the book of Leviticus, chapter 11, verse 1 in the King James Version Bible of Understanding. So on this platform, you children of Israel, we go off the King James Version Bible. Okay? So let's read in the book of Leviticus chapter 11 verse 1 where the Most High is commanding Moses and his brother Aaron to command the children of Israel on the understanding on what foods to eat and also what foods not to eat, according to Yahweh's righteousness of understanding. Leviticus chapter 11 verse 1. And Yahweh spake unto Moses and to Aaron, saying unto them. So now Yahweh is going to speak to Moses and Aaron to command the children of Israel to do certain things pertaining to food, on the things that the children of Israel are supposed to eat and what the children of Israel are not supposed to eat. This is that understanding in the book of Leviticus, chapter 11, verse 1. And as you can see, this is a picture example of the Most High in the heavenly realm, and also this is a biblical depiction of the understanding of Moses. Okay, just giving a picture to explain what's going on in this particular verse of understanding. So the next slide says this: clean foods to eat. So we're going to establish the clean foods to eat according to Yahweh's righteousness of understanding. So we're going to read the book of Leviticus chapter 11 verse 2. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, These are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. So this is going to the beasts that are basically going to be on land. So this is a commandment that Yahweh has given to Moses and Aaron to give the commandment on the things, or as far as food to eat, or food that is permissible to eat on land, on earth. This is that understanding. And this right here is just an example of a picture of clean foods, of the understanding of what's permissible to eat according to the laws of the Most High. Okay, so this is just a picture example in this understanding. So when we go to the next slide in the book of Leviticus chapter 11 verse 3, we'll get into this understanding on the clean foods to eat of understanding. Leviticus chapter 11 verse 3. It says this: Whatsoever parteth the hoof and is cloven footed and cheweth the cud among the beasts that shall ye eat. So Yahweh is establishing that order on certain animals that's on land that may have a parted hoof and is cloven footed and cheweth the cud among the beasts that ye shall eat. So it's just establishing that you have certain creatures that's on land that is permissible to eat according to the laws of the Most High. So certain animals that's permissible to be eaten have these characteristics based upon their foot location. Okay, so this is that understanding. So this is just an example of cloven hooves right here in this particular picture of a certain animal. Plus, it says choose the cud. So this is an example of a permissible animal on land that's permissible to eat. And this right here is an example of that understanding. Okay. So animals that have cloven hooves, or also plus choose the cud. Okay. Choose the cud is getting into the animals are digesting the food properly, right? They chew the food. It goes down their stomach area, then it comes back up to the mouth, then it goes back down again. Okay, so animals exemplifying a good digestive system pattern. That's what's getting into choose the cud of understanding. Okay. So we're going to get into the establishment of animals that are considered not good to eat according to Yahweh's righteousness. Okay. So this is the understanding. It says unclean food not to eat. Okay. So when we go to the book of Leviticus, chapter 11, verse 4, it's going to get the establishment. And an example of a good food to eat of one particular animal that's good to eat would be a cow. Okay. A cow. So an example of something that is permissible to eat, like I said earlier, which would be a cow, because a cow has cloven hooves and they chew the cud. Also, a permissible animal to be eaten would be like a sheep, or a deer. That's permissible to eat under the laws of the Most High. Okay, and etc. Okay, so we know in general that those are clean animals to eat according to the Bible. So we're just going to exemplify these things to establish the clean animals on the earth that's supposed to be eaten. We're just establishing that understanding. So now we go to the next slide where it says unclean food not to eat. So we have unclean foods that's out there that's not permissible to eat according to the laws of the Most High. In the book of Leviticus chapter 11 verse 4 is going to establish that understanding. So we get into the understanding of an animal that's not permissible to eat under the laws of the Most High, such as a camel. A camel, yes, chews the cud, right? But it's not permissible to eat according to the laws of the Most High. So we go to the book of Leviticus chapter 11 verse 4 to get the understanding. It says this: nevertheless, these shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the hoof, as the camel, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof. He is unclean unto you. So again, as you can see, this understanding, the camel cheweth the cud, right? It digests properly of the food that he eats, of the habitation of the earth, but it divideth not the hoof. So it doesn't have a divided situation with the hoof. And of course, it's not an animal to be eaten. Okay, but you do have certain nations outside the children of Israel that do partake in eating camels. Okay, that's a Gentile nation custom. But the Hebrew Israelite custom was not to eat a camel because it's not an animal to be eaten according to Yahweh's righteousness. So we go to the next slide. It says unclean food not to eat. So when we go to the book of Leviticus chapter 11 verse 5, it's going to establish the continuation on the unclean foods not to eat according to the Bible. Leviticus chapter 11 verse 5. And the coney, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. So again, these certain animals that's on the earth may have the process of chewing the cud properly, but the Most High ordained certain animals not to be eaten based upon certain reasons. But it says, and the coney, because he cheweth the cud, meaning this particular coney, which is going into a rabbit in modern day times, but divided not the hoof. This particular rabbit doesn't have a divided hoof. Okay. He is unclean unto you. So this is the understanding that the Most High is commanding that the children of Israel do not eat rabbits. That's what this understanding is when we get into this understanding where it says coney. Coney is an ancient word for rabbit. So as you can see in this picture example, around the 1800s or years prior before the 1800s, they was referring to a rabbit as coney. Okay, but now in modern day times, we refer to a coney as an actual rabbit. So it's the same understanding. But again, we're not supposed to eat rabbits according to the Bible. But people in the South, primarily the so-called white man, are known to be eating rabbits. Okay, the children of Israel were commanded not to eat rabbits. The next slide says this: unclean food not to eat. So this is just a continuation in the understanding in the book of Leviticus chapter 11 verse 6 of understanding. It says, and the hare, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. So again, this is establishment of another form of a rabbit, but it's a larger form of a rabbit named the hare. Okay, this hare is particularly more larger than a coney, or what we call in today's time a rabbit. Okay, a hare is much larger. So Yahweh had to establish that it's unclean to eat the rabbit. It's definitely also unclean to eat the hare. Okay, to make it known that even though this hare is large, it's still considered unclean to eat. Point blank, period. And the hare, because he cheweth the cud, but divided not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. So this is the understanding that the hare has a good digestive system, but he is unclean unto the children of Israel because the hare does not have a divided hoof. That's what it's just establishing. So it's an unclean animal to be eaten. The next slide says, unclean food not to eat. So this is a continuation in the understanding on foods not to eat according to the Bible. Leviticus chapter 11 verse 7. And the swine, though he divide the hoof and be cloven footed, yet he cheweth not the cud, he is unclean to you. So again, a pig is an unclean animal, as you can see the understanding. And the swine, though he divided the hoof, because a pig has a divided hoof when it walks on land, and be cloven footed, right? Yet he cheweth not the cud, he is unclean to you. So a pig doesn't have a proper digestive system, right? It doesn't have a proper digestive system because a pig is a filthy animal. A pig will eat anything. Okay, so whatever a pig eats, it doesn't filter the food properly as far as the organism or the mechanism that it's consuming. It doesn't do away whatever it's eating. So if a pig is eating slop and it has all type of elements in it or different defiled organisms within that food that pig is eating, so whatever that pig is eating, a particular person who eats from this pig or eats part of this pig will most likely digest whatever that pig was eating. Okay, which will enable a person to get sick. Because a pig is a disgusting animal. Because even when you watch that movie, Flintstone movies that came out in the 90s, they had the pig as a garbage disposal, right? Supposed to be in the Stone Age area, right? Society knows that this pig is a disgusting animal. That's why they put that pig in that movie as a garbage disposal in the Flintstone movie. Because society understands that a pig will eat anything. So that's why you look at this picture. This pig is a disgusting animal. It's walking in slough or mud. It's a disgusting animal. It's a garbage disposal of the earth. So it's not supposed to be eaten, point blank, period. But again, society is eating this food like it's a delicacy. But it is not. Because it's a unclean animal. So also in the next slide it says, unclean food not to eat. So this is a continuation on the pig not being a clean food to eat. Leviticus chapter 11 verse 8. Of their flesh shall ye not eat, and their carcass shall ye not touch. They are unclean to you. So again, this particular animal is just an unclean animal. We're not even supposed to be touching the dead pig with our own hands. We're not even supposed to be touching this animal, period. Okay, because this pig is a disgusting animal. Point blank, period. Of their flesh shall ye not eat, because this is a unclean animal. As you can see, these pigs are eating slop. And their carcass shall ye not touch. We're not supposed to be touching no dead pig. We're not supposed to be touching anything that this pig pushes out. They are unclean to you. So this is just a pig that's unclean unto us. So now in this next slide, we get into the establishment of foods in the waters clean to eat. So this is just an establishment of foods that's permissible to eat according to Yahweh's righteousness. Okay, that's in the waters. So that's basically what it's saying, foods in the waters clean to eat. So this is that understanding where Yahweh is giving that commandment to Moses and to Moses' brother Aaron on the understanding on foods permissible to eat that's located in the waters. In the book of Leviticus chapter 11 verse 9, it says, these shall ye eat of all that are in the waters, whatsoever have fins and scales in the waters, in the seas, and in the rivers, them shall ye eat. So again, Yahweh is establishing in the correlation of understanding that the creatures that's in the waters, and he's going to specify the waters like the seas, the rivers, right? The lakes and so forth. That's what that's getting into. As far as the different variations of waters where we have creatures inside these waters, he's establishing what type of creatures in these waters are permissible. So he is establishing that whatsoever have fins and scales in the waters. Okay, so that is establishing on what is considered clean to eat. So the fishes or the creatures that's in these waters must have fins and scales. They must have both. If they have one or the other, they are not clean animals. They have to have both of these components, fins and scales, in order for the children of Israel to be permissible to eat these things that's in the waters. So just keep that in mind. These sea creatures must have both fins and scales. They cannot have one without the other. So in this next slide, it says clean fish examples to eat. So we have in this one particular picture, a tilapia. We have a salmon. This is just examples of these particular fishes. And according to the Bible, these are considered clean fish to eat based upon both these fishes having fins and scales. Okay. Even though most people believe a tilapia is a fake fish, but that is a lie. Okay. Most of the time, these fishes are farm raised, right, in America. Because these fishes are very sought out overseas. Okay, so the cheaper approach a lot of people are doing is basically doing farm raising these particular fish called the tilapia. But these fish are real fish. Okay, same thing goes for a salmon. Salmon are real fish as well. So salmon is a clean fish because of salmon has fins and scales. So these just two fishes that have an example of having both fins and scales. So you could do your own research, Israel, to see if you want to purchase a fish to eat. You must make sure that these fishes have both fins and scales before eating them. Okay? So the next slide says unclean foods in waters not to eat. So we're going to get to this understanding of unclean foods in the waters not to eat. Okay? So we're going to go to the book of Leviticus chapter 11 verse 10. You get the understanding of the unclean foods not to eat according to the Bible. Leviticus chapter 11 verse 10. And all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, of all that move in the waters, and of any living thing which is in the waters, they shall be an abomination unto you. You see this, Israel? So as you can see, if these fishes or these sea creatures do not have both fins and scales, guess what? These sea creatures are unclean to eat according to the Bible. So that established all the different type of waters that Yahweh created on earth. They must have fins and scales to be eaten. But we get into an establishment in this understanding of the sea creatures that do not have both fins and scales. So these unclean sea creatures sometimes just have fins, or sometimes they may just have the scales without the fins. Okay, but they have to have both components, or some of these sea creatures don't have the fins or neither the scales. So these sea creatures are unclean because they don't have fins or scales. So if they don't have the fins and scales, or they have one or the other, either fins or the scales, guess what? They're considered unclean sea creatures according to the Bible. So this particular picture is giving an example of sea creatures that's considered unclean according to the Bible. So in this particular picture to the right, you have a crab, you have what appears to be a catfish, you have a shark, you have a picture of a dolphin, you have a picture of a whale, you have a picture of a shrimp, you have a picture of a clam, right? You have a picture of an octopus or even a squid over here. And also another creature that's considered unclean that a lot of our brothers and sisters like to eat in these last days are like lobsters, right? They like to eat lobsters. They like to eat oysters. Those are considered unclean sea creatures according to the Bible. But we have our sisters loving to eat these things, right? They love to eat the unclean foods, right? So these sisters must repent. You Hebrew men must repent from eating these unclean sea creatures according to the Bible, if you want to inherit everlasting life. So the next slide says unclean foods and waters not to eat. So this is a continuation in the understanding. Leviticus chapter 11 verse 12. Whatsoever have no fins nor scales in the waters, that shall be an abomination unto you. So again, if you're eating the things of the ocean water that do not have no fins nor scales in the waters, you are considered committing an abomination. Okay? Abominational practices is a hell-worthy sin according to the Bible. So contrary to what the Christian churches is telling people that it's okay to eat the unclean food and so forth, you're washing the covenant under the blood, that's a lie. Okay? So you children of Israel, if you are guilty of eating these unclean foods in the seas or in these waters, right, that are considered unclean, if you're guilty of eating these things, you need to repent. Come out of the ways of the world. Start eating the things that are considered clean according to the Holy Bible. So in this particular picture to the right, we have, of course, what you'll see, the lobster, you have the oysters, you have the clams, you have the crawfish, you have the shrimp, you have the mussels, you have the crab, you have the scallops, and you have the prawns. This is what the children of Israel are struggling with every day throughout their life as far as eating these things. These things are abominable foods to eat. Also, the alligator and the crocodile are not supposed to be eaten because those sea creatures do not have fins and scales. And also the frog. The frog has no fins and no scales. So the frog is not supposed to be eaten as well, because we have people that's out there, they eat the frogs and also they eat the alligators and the crocodiles. So those sea creatures in general are unclean according to the Bible. And also the shrimp, the crabs, the oysters, right? The lobsters, they are the scavengers of the sea waters, okay? So that's why you have the shrimp, the crab, the lobsters, and those other sea creatures that's considered unclean near the bottom of the ocean or in the bottom of those seas, right? Or they're basically at the bottom of those waters because they consume the filth of the ocean, okay? So that is also why those sea creatures are considered unclean when we get into the oysters, the crabs, the lobsters, and so forth, as far as them being located at the bottom of those waters. They are the cleaning mechanism for those waters in the earth. So again, you children of Israel, you have to stray away from eating these type of sea creatures, okay, because they are considered unclean according to the Bible, and we already established why, because they do not have both the fins or the scales, okay. They have to have both components to be established to be a clean sea creature to eat. So let's go to the next slide. Unclean foods not to eat. So this is a continuation in the book of Leviticus chapter 11 verse 13. It says this: and these are they which ye shall have in abomination among the fowls. They shall not be eaten. They are an abomination: the eagle and the ostrich and the osprey. So we're going to establish the eagle of understanding that's being considered unclean, and the ostrich and the osprey. We're going to establish what these two creatures look like. Okay, so most people will read ostrich and osprey and don't know what these animals look like. So we're going to establish this understanding. But you do understand in America, it's considered against the law to eat an eagle. Okay, it's against the law to eat an eagle in America because America understand the eagle as far as being an animal that's not supposed to be eaten. Okay, based upon them reading this understanding in the Bible. And this is in the book of Leviticus chapter 11 verse 13. And also America's symbol is the eagle. So of course they're going to outlaw or put it out there that you're not supposed to eat an eagle in general. But according to the Bible, mankind in America are not supposed to eat an eagle. And also in general, the children of Israel are commanded not to eat an eagle according to the Yahweh's commandments. So we're going to establish in this next slide the ostrich and the osprey are unclean foods. We're going to establish that understanding. It says the ostrich in this point right here, it says also known as a bearded vulture or a lammergeier among the vertebrates. And then we're not going to read no more of that, but we're just establishing that it's a bearded vulture. Okay, it has a lot of hair around the face area. Okay, so it's basically like a vulture that eats like bones and stuff like that, stuff that's considered dead. Okay, it's like a vulture. Okay, the vulture has different family under this tree. Okay, but it's all related to the primary vulture that we're used to seeing. That's on, that eats the dead on side of the road. And then the next point is it says osprey, but in general they spell it osprey with an E instead of an A. Okay, the Bible says an A, but modern day time they spell it with an E. It says osprey. It says the osprey, historically known as sea hawk, river hawk, and fish hawk, is a diurnal fish-eating bird of prey with a cosmopolitan range. It is a large raptor. So it's just establishing that this particular osprey is a large sea hawk or river hawk or fish hawk. It's a large bird. Okay, it's primarily catered to the waters by grabbing certain things from the waters by picking up, of course, fish, of course. But this is considered unclean food to eat. Okay, this is actually a hawk, a form of a certain type of bird that's not supposed to be eaten according to the Bible. Okay, so that's the understanding when we get into osprey. It's a hawk, and the ostrich is getting into a vulture. So both of these birds are unclean according to the Bible. So we continue in the book of Leviticus chapter 11 verse 14 on a continuation on unclean foods not to eat. And of course it says, Leviticus chapter 11 verse 14, it says, and the vulture and the kite after his kind. And this again is another form of another understanding of creatures that are considered unclean to eat. This is the vulture that a lot of people know about. Okay, but when we go back, when you see an ostrich, that's another form of a vulture, but it's just a different type of vulture. Okay, Yahweh just establishing to Moses that you have different birds, but they come from the same family in general that are catered to being unclean. Okay, according to the Most High. So he had to establish two different variations of vultures being unclean. And also you have the next slide that says kite, because when you go back it says, and the kite after his kind. So we established the vulture as being unclean. Now it's another bird-like creature named the kite as being unclean as well. So we're going to establish what a kite is. Okay, because most people don't know what a kite is. So it says kite. Kites are birds of prey with varied diets, but most eat large insects, cicadas, dragonflies, beetles, small reptiles, lizards, snake, amphibians, frogs, and sometimes small birds, mammals, mice, bats, or even fruit, often catching prey midair, scavengers. So again, this particular bird is an unclean animal to eat. So basically this bird eats all type of stuff as well, similar to like a vulture, but this particular bird eats all type of crazy stuff. Okay, the next slide says unclean foods not to eat. So again, in the book of Leviticus chapter 11 verse 15, it says every raven after his kind. So again, the children of Israel are commanded not to eat ravens. Right? And of course, ravens are birds. You have different type of ravens, right, as birds, but we're just going to put this particular raven picture up. But again, you're not supposed to eat no type of raven from its family. No type of raven, because different type of ravens. Okay. The next slide says unclean foods not to eat. Leviticus chapter 11 verse 16, establishing that and the owl and the nighthawk and the cacao and the hawk after his kind. So we're not supposed to eat these type of birds. So this is just establishment of an owl, and this understanding is not permissible to eat according to Yahweh's righteousness. And also the nighthawk and the cacao and the hawk are not supposed to be eaten as well. So in the next slide, we're going to get an example of what a cacao looks like, and the hawk are unclean food. So we're just establishing that in ancient time, they was calling the cuckoo bird the cacao. Okay, so in modern day times, it's known as the cuckoo bird. So we just had to establish the difference and variation of understanding. So the cuckoo bird is not a bird that's supposed to be eaten according to the Bible. And this is what it looks like. Okay, even though you got different variations of coloring from these different birds, but we're going to just put this out there to say, hey, this bird that's from the cuckoo bird family is not permissible to eat. And also the hawk, even though you got different types of hawks, but in general, hawks are considered unclean to eat according to the Bible. Also, we go to the book of Leviticus chapter 11 verse 17. It says, and the little owl and the cormorant and the great owl, these particular birds are not permissible to eat as well. Okay, but we're going to establish where it says little owl, you have different types of owls. You have a small owl, then you have a mid-sized owl, then we're going to get into the great owl, which is this understanding of different variations of different type of owls. But now we're going to go to the next slide to establish the cormorant and what this great owl is getting into. that's not permissible to eat according to the Bible. So in this next slide, it says the cormorant and the great owl are unclean foods. So again, the cormorant bird, that's what it's getting into. A cormorant bird looks like this particular bird in this particular picture. So in this particular picture, you see a big, large bird, okay, near the water area. That's a cormorant bird. This is what a cormorant bird looks like. Also in the next picture, it says great owl. So this is the great owl. When you see a large owl, it's been referred to as being a great owl. So when we go back, this is what that great owl was getting into, where we get into the large size owl compared to the little owl that you see in this particular picture right here. As you can see, it's a difference. The great owls are the real big, large owls. So both these type of birds are forbidden to eat according to the Bible. So the next slide says unclean foods not to eat. Leviticus chapter 11 verse 18. It says, and the swan and the pelican and the gier eagle. So again, it's different variations of types of swans. And again, we're not supposed to eat the swans according to the Bible. Okay, so we're not supposed to eat these particular swans. Most people refer to these as ducks, okay, but these are known as swans. We're not supposed to eat these animals according to the Bible. Okay, so it says in this next slide, it says the pelican and the gier eagle are unclean food. We're just establishing in this particular verse in the book of Leviticus chapter 11 verse 18, where it says the pelican and the gier eagle are not permissible to eat according to the Bible. So we're just giving the picture of understanding. So the pelican bird is not supposed to be eaten according to the Bible. And also the gier eagle is an ancient name for the more modern day term, which would be the Egyptian vulture. Okay. So the gier eagle is an ancient name of the eagle that's been referred to as the gier eagle, but in modern day times, they have different titles for this particular bird. But this primary bird is known as the Egyptian vulture. Okay. So that's one of the titles that the gier eagle has in modern day time. It has different modern day names, but we picked this just the Egyptian vulture title. So these are just examples of unclean birds to eat according to the Bible. Okay, this continuation in unclean foods not to eat according to the Bible in the book of Leviticus chapter 11 verse 19. It says, and the stork, the heron after her kind, and the lapwing and the bat. So this is just a continuation in different type of birds not to eat according to the Bible, or certain type of creatures that's on the earth that's not permissible to eat according to the Yahweh's commandments. So the stork bird looks like this. We're not supposed to eat this particular bird. Also the heron bird looks like this. We're not supposed to eat this bird. They always are near waters, as you can see. And then the lapwing bird that's going to this bird right here, that's what this looks like. Okay. So that's a lapwing bird right here. Okay, so we already established what the heron bird looks like, or the lapwing bird looks like. And now we're going to get the bat of understanding. So the next slide establishing that we're not supposed to eat bats according to the Bible, because bats are creatures that's not supposed to be eaten. Okay, as you can see, the understanding. So now we go to the next slide. It says clean birds known to eat example. So Yahweh does have clean birds to eat on the earth. Okay, so we're just going to establish that quails and chickens are closely related ground dwelling birds. Source is, of course, google.com. So quails and chickens are closely related. So they are family related. Okay, so these birds are permissible to eat according to the Bible. So when we go to the next point, it says the Bible reference quail being given to eat for the Israelites in the book of Exodus chapter 16 verse 13. Okay, so quail is a clean bird to eat. Okay, but the chicken has more nutrients based upon the longevity of life that a chicken is able to live. A chicken is able to live longer term as far as lifespan compared to a quail. That's the understanding of a lifespan comparison. Okay, so as you see, it says quail 2 to 3 years or 5 years approximately of life, but then the average chicken lifespan is 5 to 10 years. Okay, the lifespan is much longer, and also you get more meat from the chicken because the chicken is much larger than a quail. Okay, which has more benefits to be eaten over the quail. Okay. So this is a continuation, understanding of clean birds known to eat examples. So again, turkeys are clean birds to eat, right? And also hens, okay, is a form of clean birds to eat because hens are a branch or a part of the family of chickens, okay? But we just establishing the clean type of birds that can be eaten on earth. As you can see, the understanding. Because our people love to eat chicken. Because chicken is a good source of vitamins and nutrients. Okay? It's a good animal. And that's why Yahweh gave the children of Israel quail when we get into the understanding in the book of Exodus chapter 16 verse 13 of the benefits of quail as far as the establishment of the eating source from these particular birds. Okay, they have a lot of vitamins and nutrients good for the body. This is why Yahweh gave the quail to the children of Israel when they was complaining about always eating manna too much. So the Most High established quail to be given to the children of Israel. So now we go to this next slide where it says unclean foods not to eat. So we're establishing on a continuation on unclean foods not to be eaten according to the Bible in the book of Leviticus chapter 11 verse 20. It says all the fowls that creep going upon all four shall be an abomination unto you. So this is just establishing that a certain type of insects and bugs that are not supposed to be eaten according to the Bible, because these creatures creep on earth or they go around on all four, right? Meaning they run the earth with their legs and so forth to what? Consume the defilement of the earth, because these are basically like the scavengers of the earth to a certain degree. Clean insects to eat according to the Bible. Leviticus chapter 11 verse 21. Yet these may ye eat of every flying creeping thing that goeth upon all four, which have legs above their feet to leap withal upon the earth. So this is going into the character of like a grasshopper. Okay, a grasshopper is considered clean to eat according to the Bible. Okay, but in general, we do understand there's different variations or different type of grasshoppers out there that's not permissible to eat according to the Bible. Okay, so you children of Israel, you have to do research on these type of things, on what type of grasshopper is permissible to eat according to the Bible. So the next slide says clean insects to eat according to the Bible. In the book of Leviticus chapter 11 verse 22 is going to establish that understanding of another type of form of clean insects to eat according to the Bible. Okay, it says, even these of them ye may eat, the locust after his kind, and the bald locust after his kind, and the beetle after his kind, and the grasshopper after his kind. So this is just an example of a locust that was considered permissible to eat according to the Bible. Okay, so this is a type of clean insect to eat according to the Bible. This is just an example. But like I said before, you do have different locusts that's on this earth that's not good to eat according to the Bible, because some locusts are poisonous. So you have to do your own research, you children of Israel, on what locust is considered healthy or considered good to eat according to the Bible. It says, this is a continuation understanding on clean insects to eat according to the Bible. It says, this has a bunch grass locust. So it's a different type of locust that's being referred to as bunch grass locust. So when we go back, so this is going to the understanding of a ball locust. That's the ancient name, ball locust, but in modern day time, it's called a bunch grass locust. Okay, it says the short-winged bunch grass locust, Cytomelia brachypteria, also known as the short-winged toothpick grasshopper, is a slender, slant-faced grasshopper found in North American tall grass prairies, sand prairies, American tall grass prairies, sand prairies, and forest edges. So this bunch grass locust is a locust that's permissible to eat according to Yahweh's commandments, but it's being referred to in the Bible as a bald locust. But in modern day times, they changed it to be called a bunch grass locust. That's the understanding. But again, you children of Israel, you have to do your research on these particular locusts to figure out what is permissible. Okay. So the next slide says unclean to be eaten insects. So again, we're establishing that avoid eating poisonous. So in this particular point, we're establishing that it's best to avoid eating poisonous locusts, avoid eating poisonous ball locusts, avoid poisonous beetles, and avoid poisonous grasshoppers, which some are dangerous to be eaten. So we want the children of Israel to avoid these particular insects that are being referred to as being dangerous to be eaten. So it's best to do in this next point. It says do research on these certain insects like the locusts, ball locusts, beetles, and grasshoppers before trying to eat them for safety concerns. So the reason why we didn't show a picture of a beetle to be eaten is because the Bible doesn't specify which type of beetle to be eaten, and we do know beetles are very, very dangerous to be eaten, so we don't know which particular beetle is considered clean. So I didn't want to show a picture and tell somebody, oh, it's good to eat this type of beetle when it's not. So we're just going to establish that it was a certain type of beetle family that was permissible to eat according to the Bible, but it's unknown at this particular moment. Okay, so that's why we didn't put the beetle on the screen. Okay, so this is just an example of a brother inquiring information on certain things that's okay to eat. Okay, he's seeking professional help in his understanding. That's what's recommended before eating random insects catered to this particular family tree of understanding when we go into the book Leviticus chapter 11 verse 22 and also Leviticus chapter 21 of understanding. Okay, so now we go to the next slide. It says unclean foods not to be eaten. So in the book of Leviticus chapter 11 verse 23 is getting to the establishment of foods not to be eaten. It says in this understanding, but all other flying creeping things which have 4 feet shall be an abomination unto you. So this is going to the establishment of like the insect creatures, going into like roaches, ants, and etc. Okay, this is just an example of roaches or ants and stuff like that. These are the scavengers of the earth that's not supposed to be eaten, similar to like the scavengers of the ocean waters or the sea waters, going into like your crabs, your oysters and lobsters and so forth. They're not supposed to be eaten as well, okay, because they have a similar role as far as being scavengers of the ocean water. But in this context, this is going to the scavengers on land, okay, that's not supposed to be eaten, which is getting to them roaches and ants and so forth, okay. So now we go to the understanding. So in the next slide, it says unclean foods not to be eaten. So this is a continuation on different foods on land that's not supposed to be eaten. Leviticus chapter 11 verse 29. These also shall be unclean unto you among the creeping things that creep upon the earth, the weasel and the mouse and the tortoise after his kind. So again, the children of Israel were commanded not to eat the weasel. So we're not supposed to eat the weasel according to the Most High's Holy Bible. This is an unclean meat to be eaten. Also, in this next slide, it says unclean foods not to be eaten. So it's unclean to eat the mouse/rat. Okay, so this is just an example of a mouse, but also we're not supposed to eat rats. Also, where it says, in this next point, it says, and the tortoise after his kind, that's going into, a tortoise is going into like a turtle, basically. It's going to like a turtle. It's a different part of the family of a turtle. So basically, that's what it's getting into. It said tortoise is going to a turtle. So we're not supposed to eat no tortoise. We're not supposed to eat no turtles. Okay, but it's all part of the same family tree of understanding. We're not supposed to eat these creatures. The next slide says the law on being holy people. Leviticus chapter 11 verse 44 is going to establish that Yahweh commanded the children of Israel to be holy people. So they're supposed to eat and conduct themselves in righteousness, separate from these Gentile nations. Leviticus chapter 11 verse 44. But I am Yahweh your Elohim. Ye shall therefore sanctify yourselves, and ye shall be holy, for I am holy. Neither shall ye defile yourselves with any manner of creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So again, the children of Israel were commanded not to defile themselves with the abominable food. Okay, they was not supposed to defile themselves with the abominable food of the earth. That's the point that this is making. That the Most High has sanctified the children of Israel to be commanded to eat righteous things according to his righteousness, which is his commandments given unto the children of Israel to what? Follow the right diet, or the right diet plan according to the Bible. Okay, so they can be holy people. You become unholy people, you children of Israel, when you actually eating the unclean foods according to the Bible. This is when the Most High brings out the sickness unto our people, and also he brings death to our people when they what? Continue engaging in eating defiled food. But when the children of Israel seek after the Most High, they become holy people and they follow his commandments by eating the good food according to the Bible. The next slide says the law on being holy people. So this is a continuation in understanding. Leviticus chapter 11 verse 45. For I am Yahweh that bringeth you up out of the land of Egypt to be your Elohim. Ye shall therefore be holy, for I am holy. So the Most High brought the children of Israel out. So the Most High brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt to be holy people. The Most High didn't want the children of Israel to remain in Egypt to be defiled people. That's why he brought the children of Israel up out of Egypt to be his holy people, to what? Be his holy people eventually in the land of Israel. So in order for the children of Israel to be holy people in the land of Israel, they had to be given the commandments. They had to understand righteousness in order for them to be in the land of Israel. Okay, so that's the understanding. Yahweh wants us to remember what he did for us by removing us from the Egyptian captivity to now be free. Now, once the children of Israel were free, they now supposed to study how to be holy people. That's the understanding that Yahweh is giving Moses and Aaron to give to the people who are the children of Israel, to know about his righteousness on his dietary plan of clean food that the children of Israel are supposed to put in their body. The next slide says the clean food and unclean food law. So again, this is the understanding of the clean food and unclean food law. Leviticus chapter 11 verse 46. It says this. This is the law of the beast and of the fowl and of every living creature that moveth in the waters and of every creature that creepeth upon the earth. So again, this is going into establishment of the creatures that's supposed to be eaten from land, and also the creatures that's supposed to be eaten in the waters. Okay, this is the law of understanding. So this is just pictures of unclean food that cannot be eaten, and this is the picture of clean food that can be eaten. Okay, this is that understanding. So in this next slide, it says the clean food and unclean food law. Leviticus chapter 11 verse 47. It says this. to make a difference between the unclean and the clean, and between the beast that may be eaten and the beast that may not be eaten. So the purpose of the clean food and unclean food law was to establish the difference between good food that the children of Israel are supposed to eat, and also to establish the unclean food the children of Israel are commanded not to eat. So that's the purpose of Yahweh giving this particular law of understanding of the clean food and the unclean food law to the children of Israel, to establish a difference in what is good for the body for the children of Israel and what is not good for the body for the children of Israel. Okay? So we as the children of Israel, as Yahweh's holy people, we supposed to consume things that's good for our bodies so we can live longer. Because if we keep consuming things that's considered unclean unto us, we bring curses unto ourselves, and also we bring sickness unto ourselves, and also we bring ourselves to an early grave, and also we bring damnation to ourselves overall, because the truth information on what we need to do as a people is presented in these last days. Okay, so we have no excuses on why we are still engaging in ungodly activity by consuming unclean foods. Okay, we must conduct ourselves in righteousness, be the people that Yahweh ordained us to be, his holy people. So we must eat the things that he considers as clean according to the Bible of understanding. Hopefully, Israel, you enjoyed this lesson on Kingdom Builders Israel LC, the establishment of the clean foods and the unclean foods according to the Bible. So I'm glad I was able to break this understanding down to a certain degree, to give y'all to get the understanding, to get straight to the point on things that you need to work on. So if you're struggling with battling eating these unclean foods, you need to repent, you children of Israel, before World War III start, and also too before Yahshua the Mashiach, the Black Messiah, make his second coming to the earth. Okay, you must repent before that time, and also before the day of judgment occurs to the earth. Other than that, Israel, hopefully enjoy this video on Kingdom Builders of Israel LC YouTube channel. And other than that, share this video with your family and friends to let them know that they must repent from eating unclean foods according to the Bible. If you're not sure on all the sea creatures that you can eat according to the Bible that's considered clean, just do your research on the sea creatures that have both fins and scales that's permissible to eat according to the Bible. Just do further research. This is just a stepping stone, Israel, to get you to wake up out of sleep. So other than that, Israel, stay tuned for more videos on this channel. Shalom.